At Brand Secrets and Strategies, you learn how to save valuable time and money, where you learn strategies to get your products on more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers, empowering brands and raising the bar. I would like you to please start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you're at today at I1.
Sure. I'm in the Bay Area of California. I'm currently in the playroom, as you can see, on early morning calls. If I'm not back out of the house earlier and into the office, I kind of have to pick a zone. So the kids are out there watching Edward Scissorhands right now. Anyway, so I1 Organics, winning on nutrition, started it about 4 years ago. We are a plant-based savory snack company. We make our puffs and our sticks from peas, beans, and brown rice, all a balanced nutritional profile, which is the foundation of our business. It's also the foundation to how I eat in both meals and snacks. I'm a big believer and proponent of balanced nutrition for long-term sustainable eating habits. Small team, again, here in the Bay Area, and that's sort of the lowdown of us.
Well, thank you for sharing that, but let's back up a little bit. You have a very eclectic kind of background. You're not the person when I look at your resume that I think, aha, this guy's going to go start a food company. So how did you get to there? What was the impetus in you launching a food company? And then what problem were you trying to solve?
Yeah, I'm a health and fitness enthusiast, so have been for a very long time. 6 days a week in the gym and eat a certain way as far as nutrition. Those are two big staples for me, both for mental and physical health. And again, I'm a big proponent of that. I think I was a proponent of that far before finding myself in food. So before this, the last few ventures I started were in the fitness space. And then, 4 years ago, I decided that getting into food and beverage was something I was really interested in, but I needed it to be something that I could really get behind, which again, I talk about often. It's always got to be a passion play. So looked at what the voids were for me. I wanted it to have a protein component. I wanted it to be organic foods. And I found myself on the savory side. So that's really how we got it going. But yeah, as far as background, it's really just general business startups, and then having a really knack for health and fitness being something that I was passionate about, and now I'm here in the food space.
Great, and I appreciate the fact that you actually had the privilege of meeting you a couple of years at Expo, so that was great. That was when you had a chip. So why did you pivot? Because we were talking about that when we were on the phone before. Why did you pivot? What was the impetus of that? And then how are things going for you now?
Yeah, in short, it was the first 18 months of the business, I was learning it. I often talk about that too. We got, punched a lot. Still do to this day, of course. It's every day I look at it as a learning moment. But the first 18 months were really, for me, getting my hands around what the differences were of food and beverage from anything that I had done before. And one of them was starting off with a chip that really wasn't great in taste. It was okay, but one of the things that I found and discovered, which is a key piece of our business and the overall strategy, is food, as far as taste and texture, same with beverage, of course, needs to be key. It needs to be the first and most important thing that you do and that you focus on. And I would say that our first product, being that chip, really just didn't have that. And so, again, luckily through some iterations, even getting to a place where I felt it was pretty darn good, it just wasn't where I wanted it to be as far as being the foundation to something that we wanted to build. Because by that time, I realized that I1 was something much bigger than I'd even anticipated as far as where I wanted to take it, as far as the platform and where it could go. So we made some really strong, we call them, I guess, pivots, but really made some strong decisions early on as far as making adjustments there.
And the brand is doing well. It's growing nicely, right?
The brand is doing very well. We're lucky. We've been fortunate enough, again, to find ourselves with a couple products that are just outstanding. And I don't say that, I say that as somebody, of course, who's going to have, my own opinion about it, but that's just the feedback from from our customers. And so that's an important piece. And then as far as retail and online and seeing growth there and getting sort of understanding of velocities and whether or not people are coming back, the short answer is our business is doing well. But we have such a long way to go. We're literally in the first inning is how I like to explain it.
Well said. And of course, I used to be a fitness enthusiast too. I still ride my bike every day, but I don't do the things, participate in biathlons and stuff like that I used to at the level I used to. Used to be Joe Athlete. It was great. But the point is understanding that food is medicine, food is what fuels you. And if you eat the right food, then not only are you defending against the viruses, any virus, but you've got a better attitude. You've got more of that mental capability. You've got more energy to last you throughout the day. And the best part about it is that if you eat right, then you're giving your body the things that it needs. And just kind of a quick segue to help frame this, I make this comment a lot that if I go out and I eat the generic bread, I'm hungry before I finish eating it. If I eat the best mainstream bread, then I'm typically satiated for longer. However, if you are what you eat and what you eat matters, and I get the organic bread and it provides my body with the nutrients that it needs, then I'm satiated even longer. And so the point here is this, and this is one of the things I really wish this industry would focus on. A few pennies more at shelf for something that I eat less of because it does a better job at filling my body is actually not only a tremendous savings in terms of what I'm spending on the food, but more importantly, it gives me the necessary energy to compete at the level that I want to compete at. And you being very interested in the gym and working out and stuff like that, that only helps you grow and thrive. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk on that for days. I go a step further as far as food definitely is medicine. I don't necessarily use that language. I'm just such a believer only because of the effects it has on me. I've been open and candid about it, and I'll be more candid about, speaking out about mental health. I've dealt with certain things that many do, and it's just not talked about enough. And I discovered it early, and we're talking 20 years, and recognizing that it wasn't just the gym, it wasn't the exercise that was stimulating me physically. That definitely helps, and I talk that should be a key piece of the foundation of someone's life. But the food, nutrition, it starts in the kitchen. Often a cliche statement, but it's it's a fact. It starts in the kitchen, not just for the physical makeup, as in, hey, I want to look a certain way. It really is the mental piece. And anybody who's ever eaten well and found themselves eating healthy or balanced foods or again, I don't like using the word diet, but clean themselves up as far as nutrition, they'll see and feel the difference mentally. I'm not a doctor. I always followed up with that. I'm just talking facts. I'm talking what affects me. And I put that out there because I want to help. And so, yes, now talking specific about whether it's organic and better for you as far as ingredient choices, there's no doubt that just the better choices that you make are going to be better for you. But I like to talk in just general basics. If you eat well, and we all know what that means, we know what's good for us and what isn't. We know what carbohydrates are, we know what fats are, we know what proteins are. It doesn't matter that there's millions and millions of dollars being thrown in marketing campaigns to throw us all over the place. If we just center and get back to the basics, we can understand and then put those foods in us more often. And then I go further about indulgences and the 85-15 rule, which I'm a believer in, as far as 85% good foods, 15% indulgences. Have a burger, have a slice of pizza, have an ice cream. It's okay. But if your foundation to your daily life is core principles around the idea of balanced nutrition, you will have a really good relationship with food. And that's the most important aspect.
Love that. Love that. Well, and on the bright side, nowadays with the technology and the things people are putting out there, it used to be, when I was growing up, I'm dating myself, that the packaging tastes better than the stuff inside the package. But the cool thing is now you can have indulgent products that are still healthy, which is so neat. I had Gail Becker with Cauliflower on there. And, to me, pizza, that's kind of indulgent, but, and a lot of other great brands as well. So I'm thrilled that you took that step and that you're being such a champion and proponent for this. So thank you for doing that. Why did you start your podcast, your videos? Is it, what were you hoping to do? And the reason I asked this question, Mark, is that those learnings that you gain from talking to other people, they can help you so much. And the amount of stuff that I've learned throughout my podcast and all the videos I put out, et cetera, has really been a game changer. So can you please talk about how you leaned in and what you do to leverage those insights, and how do you reach out to those people, and what are you looking for when you bring those insights to your audience?
Well, I started actually as self-serving is how you should start most things. I couldn't, as a smaller brand, I couldn't get on most podcasts. And it was just one of those things where I said, well, then I'm just going to start my own. And I will go to the smaller brands more often and get them on here, because that would not only be fun, but it's just a platform for them. Again, it's just value add. You have to start with a value add proposition. And then it phased into, all right, well, now I'm starting to get a little bit of traction. So there's mid-sized brands and then there's larger ones. And I just like the eclectic, combination, because in each one, they're all giving value within the interviews. And so, again, that's how it started. And where it's at now is just simply just a value add opportunity. Get questions in there, talk to people who are actually doing it. Right. It's one thing when you're talking to, an investor or a consultant or whatever it may be, but we're talking to the founders, and I know what it's like. So people don't know this. Sometimes I bring it up in context, but I have no questions written down. None. I literally just know the name of the brand and I kind of know what they do, but that's on purpose because I want it to be off the cuff. Now it can be off the cuff because I'm doing it. I know every single, answer that's about to come. And then as far as it's just a redirect, I can do that. So it's just, and then, the last piece is I'm just meeting really amazing people. There's a lot of men and women in this category that, that's been fun to get to know. And it's unique like that. I'm sure you know it, way more than I do. It's just a unique, small sort of environment. And I'm just having a good time doing it, and hopefully putting out some positive energy out there that people can grab onto.
I appreciate you, Sean. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Inviting all those people on, luckily I've been able to develop these kind of relationships with people to have on. John Forakers, Gary Hirschberg, Seth Goldman's, et cetera. And that's been extremely beneficial. But, I love disruptive brands like yours. I love disruptive founders that go out of the way to solve a problem that no one else is looking at. Cricket protein. Think of all the different things that are out there. The point being is that you've got so much great wisdom around that drive, energy, and that's perhaps one of the things I appreciate most about what you're doing and the platform that you're producing, et cetera. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out, how do I help you avoid those bottlenecks, you and every other brand? How do I help you grow and scale effectively? And that's my focus. Generically speaking, I'm trying to fix our broken food system. And what I mean by that is I want to make it easier for you to get your brand on more store shelves in the hands of more shoppers. Retail's pay to play. And it is disgusting how much money needs to be thrown at things, situations, et cetera, that don't really achieve any value. So again, I've niched down, I've leaned in now, I'm really focused on trade marketing. But I'm a category management expert by trade, not what you really hear about necessarily in the natural space. I used to be the category captain, except for Kimberly Clark and whatnot. And I bring those high-level strategies to our natural community. And the point being is that if you can leverage the best of those strategies, this is how we level the playing field, how we give you an equal seat at the table. And what you're bringing, what you're sharing in terms of bringing your founders on, I was listening to Ari with Once Upon a Farm. What you're bringing, those stories are so rich and important because it helps inspire other people. But in addition to that, it also helps provide a lot of insights about how these brands can grow and scale. So, do you need to shut your door or anything?
Yeah. No, yeah, guys, I'm on the call. I know you guys can't come in here. I'm on the call. Sorry, bud. That's called quarantine. And I often talk about that too. My kids are first, so the business falls wherever it lies after my kids. Yes, Ari was great too. And, we know of like someone like myself, when I know of a John Foraker, right? I've never met him personally, but you just know of him and you're like, okay, this guy's like, he's the Tom Brady, right? And that's cool. But in my mind, I know that maybe one day we could align like that. I don't know what that means necessarily, but I'm using that as a figurehead. I talk openly, and I've been doing it more often about the big brands that are out there. The Frito-Lays of the world, most would be like, oh, are you competing with? Well, I'm not competing with anybody. I'm just doing what is our own thing. I1 Organics is a platform for health and wellness, and we're solely focused on that. I don't care about anybody else. And I don't look at anybody else. I don't go to other people's pages. Like people, again, sometimes when I tell them, I'm very transparent. That's my playbook. I don't need inspiration. We have a platform that we're building, and I plan on it being a legacy play. Is it going to go to my kid? I'm not thinking like that. I'm just saying this could be something that looks like an Annie's one day, right? You talk about John Ford. And how you get there is you don't push away at those, right? They'd say, oh, Frito-Lay's, they got a huge piece of that pie there. I don't care. If anything, Frito-Lay's is somebody that I'd love to work with one day. They have a platform that is unmatched, right? They have amazing products, ones I don't eat, right? I don't give them to my kids per se, but that's all good. So I'm not saying they have amazing, great tasting products, right? But they're going to look for great platforms that serve a point or a focus or a customer that they don't, right? And I want that. And they have great executives. They have people inside that are amazing and smart and can provide assistance in places that we can't. So anyway, like just speaking about what you're saying about shelf and us, like we're just doing our thing. We're doing our thing. And where that lands in 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, we'll see.
Well, on that note, technically you do compete against them because a snack buyer buys any of the snacks on the shelf. But what I'm getting at, Mark, and this is something I'd love to be able to help you with, or something certainly I focus on a lot in the podcast, et cetera, is that your customer that gets your product, that understands the value of organic, that understands the missions behind your brand, all those things that are important to your brand, that customer will pay a super premium price to buy your product. And when they buy your product, they're going to buy other super premium products, organic products across the store. Therefore, at the end of the shopping trip, your customer is far more valuable than the Frito customer. And by leveraging these insights, you can use these in lieu of slotting and some of the other fees that other brands pay. The reality is that you will never compete against Frito because they have such deep pockets. However, their interest in you would be more about that customer that you attract and how do you grow that customer. So the point being is that the strategies that I'm focused on is how do I help you leverage that in your selling story so you can grow and thrive. And so that's where I was trying to frame that. So do you have any thoughts around that? And when you said you wanted to be a legacy brand, that's admirable. At the same time, if I can help you get more runway to grow and scale, that's the win-win. Any thoughts?
Runway is the game. That's why, again, another topic I talk about often is the cash required, right? The longer you're in the game, the benefits you're going to just, get result from it, right? And so that's just fact. This is just a runway play. And the brand being more well known, and I've seen it before. I remember I saw an ad online. I walked by the bag on shelf 3 times now. That's just part of the overall requirements you need in order to get to the next phase of your business. Cash being a big piece to that. I don't know. I don't think much on it. There's always going to be a Doritos buyer. There's always going to be a Cheetos buyer. I don't care. Because that isn't my focus, other than to do what we have control over. I don't have control over the fact that they have 80% of the shelf. I don't have control over it. So it's part of also just your framework of your mind of building a business. Just move away from the things you don't have control over. What I do have control over is to tell our story in hopes that it's solving the consumer's problem. Because this, remember, is a health and wellness platform for other people, not for me. This is to solve their problem. This is a you thing, not a me thing, not a we thing. And if we can preach that and put out our message in hopes that people see it and say, this is solving my problem, and 10 of those 20 people are people who may be going to the store to buy Doritos, but are now opting for a better choice, booyah, we did it, right? And then you got to do it over and over and over and over again. So that's my answer to that.
No, and that makes sense. That's why we're here. Of course, again, trying to help you get more runway, help you compete more effectively, so that you're not throwing good money after bad. And that's the challenge. Is a lot of brands, when they get into this space, they try to compete in the same strategies that a Frito would use. But we want to teach you how to differentiate your strategy, your go-to-market strategy, your story. And the point is that my claim to fame in this industry is being able to push around big brands like P&G and Frito by leveraging the value of the unique customer that bought the products that I was selling, Unilever at the time, and then Kimberly-Clark. And why that matters is if I can help brands like you leverage that, then that gives you, like I said, an equal seat at the table, et cetera. So thank you for sharing it. So on that note, we're talking about getting more bandwidth, more runway. How do you build a CPG brand with limited resources, limited financing, excuse me? Well, same thing.
You've got to be very conservative with your cash. That's sort of the easy answer, especially after COVID. It puts you back into the position of really refocused. As far as your cash position and where everything is going. Another topic I like to talk openly about is the profitability of a business. And early on, I really wasn't focused on that because I was just in sort of blinded by everything that was going on. But as we've gotten to the stage where we're at, I'm really seeking profitability. I said it last month. Last month we had a profitable month. That's sexy to me. And the reality is we have to raise capital. We're closing on some money right now because we need it. There's a difference between having gobs of money and then just using it to just get out there and buy sales versus having money in order to scale conservatively. And by that, you need operational capital. Somebody can easily just put the math together. If you're selling $300,000 or $400,000 of product a month, well, you need to make that product. And you got packaging and foil and the co-packer and your employees and your paper and your printer and the stamps and the lights. So you need operational capital. And those are two very different businesses. And I just posted about this too, about there are 150 different ways between those 2 points that you can operate a business in this space. So capital is needed either way, but you have 2 ways to build, and then everything in between. You can do brick by brick, direct to consumer, do some tests there, $1 to $2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, or you just get your, you got friends in high places and they're writing big fat checks and for you to kind of just go at it. And the latter is not really something I'm interested in. And so, we're going to forge ahead and try to keep it lean. And that's really the theme of sort of to the question is where we like to stay lean, and we're going to continue to stay lean going into 21.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have a belief that a CEO, a founder, should not be a perpetual fundraiser, which is what you're getting at. And so again, it's about how do you leverage it? How do you grow and scale? Leveraging, getting the most out of your available resources. You mentioned the comment about buying volume. That's what those big CPG brands are famous for. And that's what trade marketing, I mean, the fact that any brand can show up and look great on a ranking report, and that looks wonderful and buyers are impressed, et cetera. But the reality is you're providing more contribution to the category. Those are the dollars that they take to the bank. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. More importantly, that unique customer that you drive into their stores, that's far more valuable than the big brand that just throws dollars at their product. Having a BOGO on the days where people would pay twice as much for a bag of chips, Super Bowl, that kind of stuff. That to me never made sense. I never really understood that, but that's their model and fine. So when you're leveraging these strategies, what are some of the things that you and I want to do to really capitalize on what you've got, to maximize it and leverage it at shelf, at retail? And one of the things I'd love for you to touch on here is the community that you're building around your brand, because that is the single greatest asset that you have.
Yeah. Well, one is it starts with margin, something often talked about. You have to start with a good margin. And then from there, just make sure that your trade spend is in check, because there is a trade spend without a doubt. And there's oftentimes a good number that you should be focused on. And so everything below that line, just needs to be, like I noted before, needs to be lean. We have a team of 5, and I believe that our team of 5 can carry us from our number now probably into 2 to 3 times the revenue. And that will, and at those stages, that's profitable numbers. And so we love that. That's the theme for us. So as far as the community is, again, going back to the customer, so long you're focused on the you, right? You as in the customer and not the we, you're going to continue to build your consumer base. And your hope is that the consumer base is doing the stuff that, your brand is going to need to scale, which is number 1, buying, number 2, coming back to buy, which is easily the most important point of CPG, of any product for that matter, that again needs to be drilled down and focused on. They use terms like velocity, but it could be just dwindled down to something so simple. Do the customers come back to buy your product? Do they care? And if the answer is yes, you have something. And if the answer is yes, and they go to step 3, which is they tell their friends, well, you got something really big on your hands. So those 3 points are really just, as I'm saying this, if anybody was listening, whether it's somebody who's going to start, thinking about starting, or is in the beginning stages, or even starting to trend into being quote unquote emerging, right? It literally comes down to that simple comment that I just made, right? Those 3 pieces make up the business. And then as far as, you not spending too much, that's just the backbone of it. Just watch your cash.
Well, and on that note, thank you for sharing that. Traditionally, trade spending represents 25% of your gross sales. of that, 70 to 90% of those dollars are wasted or ineffective. They're not driving sales. They're not introducing your brand to new customers. And so when I go back to the community piece, that's exactly what I wanted to focus on. Like you said, if you can spend less money reacquiring the same customer, that's a huge win. Better yet, if you can convert that occasional customer to loyal evangelist, that's the win-win. So when you're talking about your community, like I said, this is the area that I focus on a lot. The reason this matters is that a lot of people will lead you to believe that loyalty is something that's printed or embossed on a plastic card. It's not. It's that loyalty of that consumer that will go out of your way to buy your product even when it's not on sale. That's the holy grail. And the way you're able to leverage that in your community is the best way to dramatically reduce your trade spend. I've got a lot of strategies I talk about, et cetera, about how to leveraging your trade spend, how leveraging your community to reduce your trade spend instead of just throwing money at shelf. So on my website, I've got a free ROI, trade promotion ROI calculator. I mentioned it. There's a link to it in the chat. But the point is that if you use that, you can see how much money you're spending. And if I can help you become more efficient by understanding those dynamics, that's the win. And by the way, a lot of the companies out there that have trade promotion tools, those tools are simply like QuickBooks for trade marketing. You've got to really understand the intricacies of trade marketing and what are the things that move the needle. And that's different for every retailer, every customer, et cetera. So check that out. There's a little instructional video. It's 9 minutes long. But with that in mind, I think it's great. And it goes back to where we kind of started, where the platform that you're building, the community that you're building around your brand is amazing. And the fact that you've got so much engagement around your brand on LinkedIn, et cetera, that's what every brand should be shooting for. Like you said, it's about how do I help you, the customer, rather than focus on me. And sadly, the big brands say, look at me, I'm a great brand, I'm a big brand, look, you got to buy me, buy me, buy me, buy me. Whereas you're talking about, here's the problem I'm going to help you solve. Here's how I'm going to help you make your life better by sharing your, not only the quality of your product, but that personal story that you have about how you leverage your insights, your personal journey to build that brand. Any thoughts?
The only thought that comes to mind actually is just again about the big players and how they did for a long time, and they continue to solve a problem, and that is by providing people happiness, and even if it's short term. I talk again openly about Frosted Flakes. Fruit Loops. Like, who doesn't love Frosted Flakes? Who doesn't love Tony the Tiger, right? People want to, I'm trying not to use a bad word. People want to, SH that, right? But the reality is they provide people happiness. Like the ultimate thing that you could provide a customer, happiness. Because when you open up the cupboards and you see Tony the Tiger, you're happy. And who else is happy? Who's the one that's really happy? Your kids, right? Like, again, I'm open. I don't have that in my house. My kids have never even had that, right? But it's not like they've never had sugar foods or things that are higher in sugar. And the other piece to it is, if we're talking openly, the nutritional profile on a product like that isn't much worse than most of the shit that's out there. Sorry. Some of this stuff gets me fired up because people want to dog on something like that, but they're not talking in reality. There's as much sugar, there's less sugar in Frosted Flakes than there is in I'm just saying. Than there is in juice. Okay? Do we not understand that, right? But one's healthy and one isn't. No, one gets your kids like smiling, which if you have kids, it's the most epic thing ever. Forget everything else that's going on, right? When your kids are happy, you're happy. There is joy in your life. And if you think about that, if you pause for a moment about what it is that all brands are trying to do, they're trying to achieve that. I know this is kind of like, we're like off the cuff random, but it's to your point, you wanted to talk about like, what are they doing? And They're doing that. So again, I1 Organics, we have a mission to help. And so the ultimate goal, of course, is to get to that level. Now, we're lucky. Winning on nutrition has a big, big opportunity. People didn't understand what I was doing when I did that. It was a positive, feel-good platform that wasn't going to solely be around foods. It's around some of the stuff that I'm doing even on LinkedIn. I just want people to feel good. So now imagine when you have a food, a product in your cabinet that not only makes you feel good, but it does the same to you physically, emotionally, mentally too. That's a pretty good opportunity, just, my own take on it. So again, around about, I know it's kind of all over the place, but I had to just nail that one.
Well, no, thank you for taking us to church. So here's where we say amen. No, I agree with you completely. And the thing is that, a lot of people don't realize that if you can get away from that sugar, by the way, I was going to tease you and say, you call yourself a good dad and you don't have Frosted Flakes. But the point is that if you get away from some of those highly processed foods that aren't good for you, kind of like the bread example I shared a little earlier, then other things taste better. If you're able to use strawberry that's freshly picked out of the ground, an organic strawberry, it is so sweet and the flavor profile is great. But if you eat something that's been sitting in a produce bin for a while and you don't know where it came from, they taste kind of bland. There really isn't a lot of flavor there. And so that's exactly what we're talking about. When you're producing a savory product, a savory snack, an indulgent snack, and doing it for the right reasons, building it for your community, using yourself as the model, my hat is off to you. And that's why, like I said, I really wanted to have you on. Because if we can do a better job, I think, as an industry, communicating the value of the nutritious products in our packaging, and you leverage that over price at shelf, that's the win-win at the end of the day. The reality is this. Like I said, I can buy the cheap bread and I'll eat a lot more of it. It's not going to satiate me. I can eat the better bread. It'll satiate me longer. And if we as a community can help communicate that value. Oh, and then by the way, the customer that comes in and buys I1 Organics is also going to buy a lot of the super premium products throughout the store. And again, your market basket's so much higher than other brands. And this is why you've got a winning platform, that in your message, and then you leveraging your community. To me, that's brilliant. This is the model that I recommend to all brands. Your product has got to be available wherever your customer shops. And as a brand evangelist, as the brand ambassador, that's, your job is, like you said, to help solve problems. So thank you for sharing that. So what are the biggest things that you learned since starting?
Oh, many things. The first one is one we already talked about. First one's one we already talked about, which is cash. It's a cash intensive business if you want to scale. Two is flavor profile has to be on point. If you want to have a long-term scalable business, you have to have your taste and texture on point with all products that you do. Don't waver and put out a product that you in your heart knows is just okay. It's not, you didn't need to do it. There's no time stamps and everything else. Just put in the extra work and make sure everything is good. Three is team is everything. We've been blessed. We have the same group that we started with. They're just all about the mission, the team work, and the way we are able to sort of lean into one another and be able to break up as far as what our roles are has been simply amazing. I've been really blessed to be able to work with this team. And four is the big one, which is the why. The WHY. If your why is not just massive. Again, I could say this. I've said it before too. Nobody's why is bigger than mine. I will put it up. I can stand on any stage with anybody, any founder, any day of the week. We could go head to head. Nobody's why is bigger than mine. And we can do that too. And I say that with all respect because there's so many founders that I'm so like just inspired by, and people who have done it before, and people I want to learn from, and it's Daniel from Kind, for instance, like his why was so big. It's why they're there, right? You can't fake that. And I said this before, we want to be the kind of salty snacks, right? Like there's a reason. And so because I say that because there is so much that's going to be thrown at you. There are so many obstacles. You are going to get punched in your face so many times that if your why is not big, it's going to be very difficult to get out of bed every single day. So I would say those are four of the main pieces to the puzzle.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on that because we teach hardworking volunteer in the industry. So there you go. No, but that's great. I appreciate that. And again, that's that value, the show that you put out, that inspiration, that's what matters. By the way, Bernardo, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you earlier. I got your note in the chat. We can follow up afterwards as far as a Mexican company coming into the U.S. And I was once the keynote at the Mexican Healthy Product Summit, so I'm very familiar with the Mexican market. So I can definitely help you there. I've got you can schedule a free 30-minute call with me by going to brandsecretstrategies.com/30min. And then Mark's email address is here. It's msamuel@iorganics.com. And certainly we'd love to help you. So if anyone's got any additional questions, reach out. By the way, if you've got additional questions, put them in the chat. I'll have something in the replay where you can get in touch with us. So, love to have your questions, but I hope that helps. There's a lot of opportunity for you, Bernardo. And one of the things that we're talking about today is how to get into market, some things you need to be thinking about. I've got some creative strategies that I share in other podcasts and other webinar episodes. Go back and watch those. That'll help you maximize those opportunities. So thank you for the question. So how do you drive trial, Mark, trial and pre-post? How do you I can speak more goodly now, right? How do you drive trial in post-COVID?
Post-COVID, yeah, because there's the demo thing. We were big on demos. We really enjoyed demos. We saw a big effect from them. Just again, if you have a good tasting product, demos work because you're gonna be able to see them buy right there in front of you. So post it. You're just going back to your promotional schedule and making sure that it's intact. Number one, and two is you're going to lean a little bit heavier into some other opportunities like digital coupons that are being offered now. You're going to lean into the big, most important piece is lean into your current partnerships. So as far as trial, a piece to that is don't start expanding too quickly because of the state that we're in, because of the different dynamic. Which again is kind of opening back up. I don't know if you've been in a store lately, masks and all, but it's definitely getting back to a little bit more of a calmer atmosphere in a grocery store, where if you're a newer brand, trial is starting to come back a little bit more. I call it exploring, but you should be really focused on your partners that you have now and making sure those work. So a big piece to it is how to be successful with trial is don't start expanding too quick. Door counts don't mean much in this business, pre-COVID or post-COVID, but you're going to lean even harder into that ideology, at this state. So,
got a couple strategies I want to share with you. Thank you for saying that. A couple weeks ago on the podcast, on the webinar rather, I had Stephanie Linden, and she is an expert in plant-based and in food service. And what's really cool about this is that you can leverage food service to get paid samples, paid trials. The point is this. If you want to, they're desperate for products that are sealed, individual self-serve, individual package brands. And if you can get that in front of a food service organization, they will sample that for you, expose your brand to new customers, help it get discovered, et cetera, and you're going to get paid for it. And you're helping out our brethren in the food service industry. So that is just amazing. And one strategy you definitely want to check out. The other thing is, I talked about leveraging your community. If you can leverage your community to reduce trade spend at shelf and reward me, a customer who's part of your loyal community, in your loyal community, that is a better way for you to maximize your sales. And if you can leverage some creative strategy around that to and to develop more of a trial situation, that's the win. That's another big win. So Makina, Social Nature, two big partners are with me on this series. They've also got platforms that can help you get some of those trials out there. So definitely leverage that. So thank you for sharing that. So why choosing retail partners is so important is the next question I have for you. But I wanted to frame this first. You made the comment about getting in the wrong doors. One of the biggest failings of brands, one of the things that derails brands more, is that a distributor, broker, whoever comes to them and says, hey, I can get you distribution someplace else that you can't serve. So this is why I believe all your go-to-market strategy needs to be owned by you, the brand. And so what recommendations do you have, Mark, in terms of how you help brands, work brands, et cetera, work brands, so that you can leverage that to grow sales? Does that make sense? In other words, getting in the right distribution.
One, because everybody wants to be in every door, and especially when a big retailer name is thrown at you, you're just like, eyes wide open, right? The clearest way to figure out which doors you should be in is by figuring out who your customer is. And that's a lot easier said than done. I mean, we still, we know who our customer is, but you want to reconfirm it over and over again. And again, with a product like ours, because it speaks to so many, you could often get sort of pushed into that wide-eyed idea that, it's for everybody, but that's not the case. It's never the case, if anything. And as soon as you are able to realize that and be really honest with yourself, your product and your brand, that is step number one. So 2 is honing in. If you know that your core consumer, the lowest hanging fruit, is moms between the ages of 30 and 50, right? Well, you have an idea of where they're shopping the most. And that could even be online. So you might just have a direct-to-consumer play. We recently launched with Thrive. We know we're going to do well with Thrive because that is a customer of ours. Those that are a part of their subscription base. And so if you know your buyer is an 18 to 25-year-old male who pumps iron 5 days a week, well, you should be focused on Vitamin Shop, right? So or GNC, you could go into the nutrition supplement channel. I know great distributors in there, the Europas of the world that still focus on small to mid-sized nutrition supplement shops. So find that that is to me, that's the key piece to figuring out which retailers you should be focused on, if any, because it could just be a direct-to-consumer play, and then going after those specific ones and turning down the ones that you most likely would not do business, do well with.
Well said. I could not agree more. And that's actually why I developed the free turnkey sales story strategies course to help brands figure that out. The point is, just like you said, you do not want to get distribution in a store that does not align with your core or ideal shopper. And you do not want to get distribution and a store that you can't properly support clear across the country, et cetera. And so by leveraging that, by understanding your business and your consumer, not just female had a household 2.3 kids, but how do they use your product? How do they evangelize it, your product, after they take it home? So thank you for sharing that. And I love the fact that you threw in the direct to consumer piece. Again, you've got to be available anywhere your customer shops. And that again is where you can leverage your trade spending, get more runway out of your trade spending. So Tom asks, he's got a question for you. Interested to hear what math Mark uses to determining third sales support brokers with a lower volume and natural organic with a lack of face-to-face. Are you willing to, how do you justify?
He's asking about brokers and whether lower volumes with the lower, and how we justify, how would you just, meaning how would you justify paying or hiring? We've been lucky. I mean, we did most of our stuff direct. And we have a couple, currently we have one broker that we actually brought on after we had already even closed it ourselves. And that really was more for his overall relationship with the retailer, the ability to get reports, the ability to have a little bit more personal discussions, and then the opportunity ahead. Under this one particular retailer, they have multiple banners, and we'd expect that he could help us, reach to another banner or two over time. So, brokers is a specific decision per brand. That's how I'd leave it. And again, if you have a little more cash and you're willing to give up a few more points, and you have enough margin to cover it, and they're reputable and they're good people, I don't see anything wrong with adding really value-add men and women on your team. It's so long that you have the ability to support.
I think that's well said. A lot of people they hire brokers blindly and they just kind of hand the keys over, and they're disappointed that the broker doesn't work the miracles that they were hoping for, but yet they don't clearly communicate the value or the mission or the brand or whatever. So well said. But more importantly, let me stress this. You've got to be in charge of your brand. Your name is on the package, and you've got to be able to leverage your broker to execute on your behalf in those stores that make sense for you, going back to that previous point. Thanks, Tom, for saying that. Tom says absolutely. So thank you. I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. Mark, what bottleneck can I help you solve? I got that.
Oh man, that's a whole other. We're lucky. We feel pretty good right now.
Good.
We feel pretty good right now. We have a clear strategy and plan in place, not just to close out the year, but really to get, through 21. And I think if anybody's, again, doing this and is in the place that we are, or, small or larger, they should have the same thing in place. They need to know where they're currently at. They need to be very, very honest with themselves. And they need to be honest with the plan. Don't start throwing up, these crazy commitments or goals that, are too far-fetched. Just put in things that are already in play, or that you truly believe can be in Q1, Q2. Create those pro formas, huddle up with your team, often, and make sure that everybody's on the same page. I'm a big communicator, you could probably imagine. I lean directly into the bad as much as the good. And I think that that's an important piece to developing a successful business. So yeah. So.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please, what were you going to say?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. This is another area that I really focus on a lot, and I've got a lot of content around your business plan. A lot of companies pay lip service to this, and so I have the privilege of working with a lot of emerging brands and multi-billion-dollar brands, everything in between, including brands that are looking for funding. And I always get that story, well, I sold $5 last year, but I'm going to be $5 million next year. with no clear, just, how am I getting from point A to point B? What I wanted to stress is that your business plan, in my opinion, should be so robust and so thorough and so forward thinking that anyone could step in and run your business on your behalf in your absence. And that should include what doors you want to get in. That should include where you're going to spend, your promotional calendar, what new innovation you're coming up with. And if you've got that built into your strategy, then that's going to make it a lot easier for you, because too many brands, hear this quite correctly, too many brands are reactive. If you're reactive, you can't take advantage of opportunities that come up at last minute. If you're reactive, you can't support your current sales if there's a problem. Whereas if you're proactive, it takes a lot of pressure off. And then you can focus on the important things like building a community like you do, Mark. So thank you for sharing that. Do you have any last parting thoughts?
I just appreciate you having me,
Yeah.
and it was fun. Let me know what else I can do to help.
Well, thank you. I mean, this would be fun to collaborate on some other things. And again, thank you for being a part of the partnering with me on the on this series. I mean, if you can help promote it, again, the goal here is to raise the bar in the industry and to make it easier for brands like you to grow and thrive. So, thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for attending. There will be a replay, and I'll get that up shortly. So, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.